Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the NBA 2K Corner 3 show. I am Braxton Angle from the Game House, and today we're thankful enough to be joined by Josh Barney, Director of Esports for Jazz Gaming. Josh, how you doing today?
Doing great, Braxton. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. This is awesome that we finally get to do one of these interviews for video. I know people have been wanting this in the community, so thank you for helping me make this happen today.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. So before we jump right into your experience in the 2K, what you guys are doing right now, can you talk about your experience in the esports industry and what led you to this position here?
Yeah. So I actually have a technology background. I was a network engineer for a majority of my career, but in my personal life, played video games since I was 8 years old. And so many years ago, I worked as a contractor for the Air Force, and me and my buddies would get together on the weekends and host LAN parties and tournaments. And so that kind of got me uh, kind of into the system that way. And I've always just kind of done that as a hobby type of thing, never really expecting it, to be something I could monetize. And so, like I said, with my technology background, I've worked for the Jazz. This is actually my ninth season with the Jazz. And year and a half ago, getting closer to 2 years now, we started to talk about what it would mean about getting into esports, whether it be team ownership, hosting events at the Vivint Smart Home Arena, that type of thing. And so I kind of pushed that effort forward on what that would mean to us for the Larry Miller Sports and Entertainment Group. And when the NBA came calling saying that the 2K League was starting, we were ready and prepped, ready to go.
That's awesome. So I think you're actually the first person I talked to who worked with their franchise and was just sort of reassigned to a different role. Did you sort of throw your hat in the ring as soon as you guys got the official go ahead that the league was happening?
I kind of found out that I was the only one that had any sort of esports background or interest, and so when they said, "Well, we need to find somebody to do this," I was like, "Well, I would love to be that person then." So I kind of built myself a position out of it.
That's awesome. I'm sure they loved having someone in house. They could just sort of promote. They already know you. They don't have to worry about the external hiring process. That had to be nice for the Jazz. And out of curiosity, what was your favorite game while you guys were hosting LAN parties?
Oh man, I've played everything out there. A majority of our stuff ended up, and I haven't had one genre that I've stuck to throughout the entire time. So we would get together and we played a lot of World of Warcraft back in the day. We ended up playing a lot of Call of Duty, Medal of Honor back when it was out.
Oh, I haven't
So
heard Medal of Honor be mentioned in
yeah,
forever. I remember that. Oh my goodness.
yeah. Black Hawk Down. There was the Delta Force games were a lot of fun back in the day. So yeah, we got together and played a lot of that stuff.
That's awesome. Um, so I usually ask next, like, so what was your hiring process like? But it sounds like it was one that was like, hey, Josh, like, you ready to do this? So like, yeah, let's get on. So when you guys were talking about the position, what was, I guess, the biggest challenge that they were going to assign to you? What was your main goal once they brought you on in this role?
To honestly look at this from that standpoint, it was what is it going to take to get this off the ground? There were so many unknowns just in that process that, and it was just me who's been running this effort for this whole time as well. I've done a lot of presentations to all the way up to the ownership of the Jazz, just to get people educated on what this is and for our organization to understand, not just from the executive level, but all the way down to my level. We've got to get people to understand what esports means, the whole competitive nature of video games, that there is no longer that stereotype of some 30 something who lives in his parents' basement and his fingers are stained because of Cheetos. That's a thing of the past. There's probably still a subsection of that out there, but that's a stereotype that it's a dead stereotype. And getting that education out there so that people understand that this is a very competitive thing. That there are people who have dedicated a lot of time and energy in their own personal life to go in and prepare themselves for when an opportunity like the 2K League comes along, where they can come out and showcase the talents and skills that they've built. So it mainly it's been educational internally has been kind of the biggest push.
Gotcha. That's a common answer that I hear a lot. You guys are sort of brought in to fill the gaps between what management may or may not know about, I guess, the small intimacies of the esports industry. Um, and I know the Jazz, like no one makes this kind of investment or decision without the proper research. But what would what did they sort of know before you came in and started educating them on all the different aspects of the esports industry?
Nothing.
Really?
It was, yeah, it was. We had Gordon Hayward at the time, which they knew that he played video games. They didn't know to what extent, he had an interest in them, and what that actually meant. So there was an inkling there that players were interested in playing video games, but they didn't know the competitive nature of it at all. And so there was. There was a time where I actually sat down and we went through just the basics of, what the history of esports was, where it came from, and how it's built up to where it's at today. So it was very rudimentary in the first couple of meetings.
That's incredible. Well, it sounds like you've done an incredible job of educating them and giving them exactly what they need to do. It seems like every franchise has done a really good job of connecting the dots and really washing away the stereotype you had mentioned. I know every time my dad thinks of this, he thinks of the South Park episode where the guy's playing World of Warcraft in his basement. So I'm glad we're moving in the right direction. That's a big step for this entire industry.
Yep.
Uh, and something that came to mind when we first scheduled this interview was you're the first Western Conference franchise that I've gotten a chance to talk to. So I'm interested, because the teams in the franchise on the East are centrally located and like within driving distance, kind of, what is the market like for you in Utah and I guess the Mountain West region? What does that look like?
So we actually have a very unique opportunity here in Utah in that none of the teams that are our closest NBA, neighbors are participating in this. So the Nuggets are not in it, and the Suns are not in it for season one. So there's a real unique opportunity for us, being that Utah has a very rich background in video games. Nolan Bushnell, who a lot of people call, the godfather of video games, was born here in Utah, went to school at the University of Utah, and then went on to create Atari, Chuck E. Cheese's. So we've got kind of a background here that a lot of people don't realize and understand. The University of Utah, which was one of the first big college systems out there to go in and actually offer up the scholarships, is our neighbor, a couple miles up the road from us here. In fact, I hired on as our team manager here, Angie Kleinsick, who was kind of the founder of Crimson Gaming up at the University of Utah. So I brought her on because of kind of the pioneering and trailblazing that she's done in the state of Utah as well to help in this process. So state of Utah also is unique in that we are one of the youngest populations in the state, or excuse me, in the nation, and we are also the fastest growing. We do really well at producing kids in this state. So we've got a huge technology backing here with the Silicon Slopes. So we're just kind of really primed and ready for something like this to come along. In my role, I've also helped to bring our very first esports event to the Vivint Smart Home Arena back at the end of September of last year, which was a Super Smash Brothers tournament. And just for a very first event in a big way, it was a really, really good success. So I think we're literally heading up that mountain to the peak where we can actually start and look out to what this actually looks like. And Utah's got a lot of good stuff on the horizon for it.
I know a lot of players right now. The big craze is well, we're 3-4 days into the qualifying process. So I'd be a little remiss if I didn't talk about all the screenshots that are filling up our timeline and the 50 win qualifications. My question for the players is, let's say I've got my 50 wins for January. What's the next step for me as a player? What would you recommend that I do? Do I keep playing on Pro-Am, or do I try to just hone specific skills and not worry about wins and losses?
I would actually do both, diversify yourself in that. One of the things we've been talking about internally is that becoming accustomed to playing with your squad is one thing, but when you're put into a situation where you're not familiar with your teammates, what does that look like? So participating in walk-ons and other stuff like that to go in and really push yourself, test yourself at what your skills are, see if you can find your weaknesses, and then go in and work on those. We're still trying to figure out, you know, where everybody fits into the scheme of this stuff. It's been really fun watching all of these screenshots and all the DMs that come in. We there's so many of them we can't even respond to all of them. It's really been crazy. I've loved watching how all of the players from all over the world have been very active in this as well. One of the things I really find cool about the 2K League is its global reach. You know, we've had tons of players from Australia, New Zealand, Lithuania, Germany, France. We've just had a lot of players from all over the place reaching out on that. And, you know, the Utah Jazz in and of itself is a very international organization with our basketball team here. So seeing that, you know, kind of same interest from around the world from our Jazz gaming side is very cool. So my recommendation is go in and really test yourself, push yourself, find out what your weaknesses are, and then work on them.
I think that's a great recommendation. I hope people follow it. And another sort of topic that has emerged this week with people getting the 50 wins and trying to interact as much as they can in the community is the idea of building a brand for a personal player. And along with that is why someone should draft you. And I want to be careful with the question because I don't want players to internalize it and be like, well, Josh told me I had to go do this. But if you're giving advice or if you're just giving help to the players, what are some of the things you're looking for in a prospect outside of just their skill in the game?
Yeah. We really would like to have players who come in who are able to go in and do some fun content as well on our daily streams. We want to be an organization that's fun to watch, not only in the game, but outside of the game. So there's an interaction piece, you know, that we want our players to be able to do where not only do they interact in the game, but outside of the game too. We tell their story about where they're from, all that stuff. And so just having people who understand what kind of a public persona looks like. You know, there's been a lot of talk on there about what that marketability means just from the standpoint of, you know, how you conduct yourselves on your, you know, Twitter feeds, you know, your streams and that, from language, content, other stuff like that. That is to help people understand that they are now a brand when they can, you know, compete in this. When you look at an NBA player, you know, they have an on-court persona that they have, but as well, when they go out and have brands come to them and say, hey, we want you to be the face of our brand, that, you know, they have to conduct themselves in a manner that brand's going to want to stay associated. And so kind of from the team standpoint too, we want that as well. We want people to be active in their community. We want people to be able to, you know, go out and interact with the community, physical community. So, you know, if you are drafted by the Jazz Gaming and you move to Salt Lake City, we want to be able to take you out and put you in front of public and know that you're going to represent our organization, you know, to the best that you can, and, you know, do that. There's been a movie that actually is kind of near and dear to my heart here. It's a movie called Forever Strong. That one of the things in there is, you know, that they have 3 principles for that high school rugby team. That's, you know, don't do anything to embarrass yourself, don't do anything to embarrass your family, and don't do anything to embarrass your team. And, you know, I think that that's a really good motto to go by. You know, you can go out and have fun and put your put your who you are out to the world, but just conduct yourself in a manner that makes a business very interested in you.
Of course. And I know there's also going to be a little bit of towing the line as far as being authentic and not strictly saying what people want to hear, especially during this interview process that's going to come later on. Um, just any quick advice on how to still be authentic, but to also present yourself, and I guess the most desirable way without losing who you are, because I think that's going to be tough for a lot of players because there isn't as much in-person interaction on this game, uh, or at least not face to face when you guys are doing the interview. So, just any quick advice about towing the line between being authentic and then also being desirable to a franchise.
Yeah, be yourself. That's one thing that I'll always say. Be yourself. I'm the biggest proponent of it here. This is actually a little out of character to me. Be For me to be in a tie today. I've got a meeting later on that I need one for. But be yourself. That's the most important thing is personality. But remember too that this is just like a job interview. If you were to go in and interview for a job, once again, you've got to present yourself um, in a way that makes you desirable to that organization and want to bring you on board. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to change who you are, but you have to conduct yourself in a way that you have a public face that the business likes and enjoys.
Solid advice as always. He's on a roll today, people. I know we touched on this a little bit when we were talking about the market in Utah and specifically what Jazz Gaming is trying to do. But what are some of the things that you, Angie, and Justin are doing to differentiate yourselves from the other franchises?
Well, I don't know the business plans or kind of strategies on a lot of those guys. We are in really good communication with a lot of the other teams. We're pretty good friends with those guys in the various organizations. What we're going to try and do is utilize what Utah provides best, and that's a unique atmosphere. The state is very diverse, and that's what we want our team to be. And we are hoping that the people who come in are going to see that vision with us as well. And we're going to go out and we're going to do some things live stream wise that you're not going to expect. We'll be doing some on location stuff. We'll be doing a lot of fun content. We're coming up with some cool kind of shows that we're going to be looking to do. So we're going to really try and make this a fun thing to be a part of. We want this to be something where people are going to enjoy watching what we're doing and have a lot of fun with it too. So,
That's awesome. Um, while creating great content and being active in the community is going to be big, it's a big factor being successful. Um, but everyone wants to win. So, what does a successful season one look like for Jazz Gaming?
I would have to say that I would love to be the first organization within our group to bring in a championship this year. I'm doing everything I possibly can to put us in that position so that out of the gate we can go out with a good fighting chance at it. Success to me has already been achieved to the point where we're at where we are right now. Looking back, a year and a half, 2 years ago on this, it's something I didn't even expect us to be looking at. So I think we've already kind of hit that success mark. If we want to get the icing on the cake, it would be bringing home the season one championship. So
Hey, it's always fun to win. Win first, and
yeah,
then everything else comes. Um,
yep,
and I like how you said it can already be viewed as a success because before everything concrete had been announced at the end of 2017, I know there were even within like our esports company, there were a lot of sort of doubters of the NBA 2K League and well, like people play it, are they going to watch it? What's that going to look like? So, what would you say to silence all of these doubters once and for all?
expertise is one thing that people are always drawn to. It's the reason why we have reality TV cooking shows. It's the reason why we see a lot of the things that we do on traditional sport or traditional media. People will recognize the talent and the expertise that these players have. And that in and of itself will cause a curiosity. And then the other parts of that is that's where we're looking to make this entertaining. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. And we're going to make this something where people are going to be interested in being a part of it, just because, you know what, we're backed by a professional league, which is something that hasn't happened out there. This isn't their first rodeo, and you know they know what it means to be an entertainment platform. So we expect good things out of this.
Another great answer. He's killing it today, people. And so we were actually fortunate enough to get a couple Twitter questions coming in from the community. There's two, and they're both about, I would say, is the combine. So the question is, how is the next step in the draft process going to play out after this qualification window has closed? If you,
I can't.
If there's
Yeah.
things you can discuss, yeah.
The NBA is asking to control a lot of this conversation, so there's a bit of that I can't talk about. But you'll obviously see the application come out at the end of the month. Once you've qualified in that, you can go in and fill that out. But the NBA will actually be giving more information out on what the next stages look like on there. So I'll let them control that conversation.
I think that's a smart decision. Just like you want to have the support of the NBA, you don't want to do anything to piss off the NBA. So I think that's a good decision right there. If I'm a 2K player and I want to stay up to date on everything to know about the 2K League and specifically what's going on with Jazz Gaming, where can I go to get all that information?
Social media is the easiest way. Everything's pretty fluid there. You can follow the NBA. I believe theirs is at NBA 2K League on Twitter. Ours for all platforms is at Utah Jazz Gaming. That's everything from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'll have other ones that we roll out as we go along. We're actually trying to get our Discord server kind of ready to go for the community. So we'll actually have a lot of places where you can interact with us there as well. And we'll try and keep everybody as up to date as we possibly can as this thing goes on.
Well, awesome. I'll be sure. I know I already follow Jazz Gaming. You got to let me know when the Discord comes out. I haven't heard that ID been thrown around yet, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah, we want to have a place where, you know, if you want to interact with the Jazz Gaming team, that you'll have a place to come and do that. We're going to try and make it where if you want to be a part of us, we'll be there for you.
That's awesome. Well, that's going to wrap things up. Once again, thank you so much, Josh, for sparing some time today. We
Absolutely
appreciate it.
Absolutely.